All right, this is Penny, and this is Penny's roadmap to success. We just got back from a walk, something that her guardian's boyfriend is going to do on a regular basis. She doesn't like, as we saw in the video above, she doesn't like people moving around. And so the video above will help talk about the walks, talk about what people could do inside the house. But basically, and there's some dogs across the street. She don't really bark at dogs across the street?
Not really.
Okay. So what we want to do is I asked the guardian, she really didn't have, Penny didn't really have much interaction with the boyfriend other than just basically him sitting there and trying not to move so the dog didn't bite him. And so to his credit, he did a great job because a lot of people try to pet the dog and we show him a good person. But if the dog's like, I'm not sure if I like you or not, well, then that's going to amplify probably the wrong thing. So on the walks, what I like is what I'm going to start talking about. What I like that happen is when the guardian's boyfriend comes over, and eventually with friends and neighbors, we want to do this as well, is basically she's going to put him on a leash, put her on a leash. We're going to walk out together, and by the time we get to like the first or second driveway, she's just going to hand the leash to the boyfriend or the neighbor. And then at that point, the first time you do it, she might walk ahead of them, like to the end of the block. And so that but have about 10 or 15 feet distance. That creates a little bit of a carrot or motivator for the dog to go forward. And then at that point, then when we get to the corner, then the guardian would stop, and then people would continue going or all the way around the block without the guardian. And then the second time, after we get to the, second or third time, after we get to the first driveway, she's just going to hand it. She's just going to stand there. We're going to walk away. Now, she's protested a little bit. She kind of dug her heels in. She didn't want to go. So we don't want to pull her, but don't want to let her stop. So we're going to kind of gently kind of keep on nudging her. And anytime she goes, she kind of spurted, and I try to use that and get her to kind of a motion going forward. Anytime she wants to stop and sniff, we're going to stop and let her sniff. We're going to let her pee and kind of go wherever she wants to go as long as it's safe and as long as it's not trying to come back home. And so so now when guests come over, they get to go outside and go for a walk, which she'll end up really enjoying. It's great exercise for her, which is stimulating. Also, the sights and sounds and smells will also be stimulating for her. Dogs process things by literally moving forward, so it helps the dog process things. And the dog has a positive association. It's doing something it enjoys with a new person. So it doesn't have to be a marathon walk, but like around the block would be ideal. And so at first I wanted the boyfriend to focus on this, but eventually we'd like to have neighbors coming by. So find some neighbors that you like. Past one I said hello to, she was not very interested in saying hello, but most of the neighbors here are really nice. So we want to basically just try to have them come over and keep it really short. So they come over and we just meet downstairs. She's already on the leash by the time the neighbor comes over. We just walk out and and then after a while, everybody in the neighborhood knows her. Or a lot of people know her, and she feels good and comfortable with those people. She's building positive associations with people that she doesn't know. Nice birdies. All right, so now hold on there a second, sweetheart. We got to keep you in the shot. I'm too ugly to be in this by myself. Now you saw that little jump in her. That's cortisol in her blood. So when that's the case, just touch her and don't pet her because you can amplify those insecurities. The other things we could do, the boyfriend, I'm going to leave some bully bites with. I would get some bully sticks or bully bites. Bully bites are probably good for her. And we would just hold it off to the side. Front facing is confrontational. So just hold off to the side. Don't offer it. Just have it right there. She'll come over and chew on it, and we're going to hold on to that. And so that way she gets to chew on it while she hangs out, and she's coming there with her own volition, and again, something good is happening. And so no more than one of those a day. This is a little avoidance now. She's getting a little antsy. She wants to get away. So we'll keep this short. The other thing I'd like the boyfriend to do is two things, is to feed her by hand. So after we go for the walk, we're going to come in and give her a chance to settle down. Then we're going to go grab a handful of food and hold it here. Let her, and just maybe about 5 to 7 kernels in the hand at a time. Let her lick it up and then grab another one. And I like the guardian, anytime that he's going to come over, to not feed her after breakfast, or we don't want to withhold food, but we don't want to feed her dinner because then she's like, I've already eaten. I don't have to eat from you. Yes, I know. I'll lower you a little bit. And that's where the expression won't bite the hand that feeds you comes from. And so now he's associated with eating, which is a very powerful, important thing for her. You want to get down? Yes, I know. Hang in there. And then the other thing is I like him to grab pockets of food, and then when he's not here, we're feeding the other meals, I want him to take the food and rub it between his hands and then put it in a Ziploc bag. So he's going to put his scent onto the food, so it smells like him as well, which will also help. If this help if I go down a little bit, or are you just going to try to squirt away? All right, so those are some things that we can do to start building up some positive associations. Now, after the boyfriend builds a good rapport, then trying to teach her new tricks or commands would be really helpful. One of the things the guardian said, I said, put her in a sit. She was like, she doesn't know that command. Now, she's a puppy mill dog. A lot of times we kind of feel sorry for them and we don't help them. But just like us, when I learn new techniques as a dog behaviorist, I feel a sense of boost of self-esteem and pride because I learned something that's going to improve. Yeah, you're going to want to get down. We'll let you down. We don't want to make it a negative experience. There we go. And so we want to make sure that it's that we're doing things to boost her self-esteem. So teaching new tricks and commands is a wonderful way to help a dog start feeling better about itself. So if you message me, I can share a video that we teach in our puppy class about how to teach a dog to sit, lay down, sit up, and stand on command. And there's also it was right there, pet her and say crash, right now.
Crash.
So that's passive training. So every time the dog, and it'd be better if the guardian was petting under the chin instead of on top. And it's a habit, it'll take a little time to go. That's passive training. Passive training is recognizing and rewarding the dog when it does things that we want. So every time the dog comes to you, pet it and say come. Every time it sits, pet it and say sit. Every time it lays down, pet it and say crash. Every time it brings you a specific toy, name all your individual toys. Comes down the stairs, call it Mexico. Going up the stairs, we can call it something else. Drinking water, we say agua or water or whatever it is, or cocktails. And taking a bite of food, say whatever your name of your favorite dish is. You say, call it sushi or tacos. There you go. And so now every time she takes a bite of food, you say tacos. And eventually she could be waiting here and your friends are here and you put food in her dish and she's waiting for permission. And you say tacos and she runs off to do this. I have a dog named Quest and his word is feast. And he runs off like he's a track star and he's just waiting. But we make him wait outside away from the food and he's got to sit in a specific area and he's like, I really want to get that food, but I have to control myself. We're helping the dog practice some self-control, which can help in other elements of his life. Not running into the street or attacking the dog or jumping up on people or whatever it is. So we want to look for analogs, ways for the dogs to develop skill sets that are related to other things, but not necessarily in that direct moment. So helping the dog practice, I can't go to get my food until I get the permission word to go eat, helps the dog practice some self-control. We also talked about petting with a purpose. Petting with a purpose is if the dog jumps up on me or nudges me or barks at me for attention, I pet it and I'm telling the dog, yes, you're in charge of me. When you tell me what to do, I listen. So instead, when the dog gives you an order, give it a counter order. So it jumps up on you, tell it to sit. If it's already sitting, ask it to sit over here or lay down. As soon as it sits, pet it under its chin and try to do that whenever possible and say the word sit and only the word sit. Like I said, what we're telling the dog is, if you tell me what to do, that's a leader mindset, careful your fingernail. There you go. The asking somebody is a follower's mindset. And so if I'm coming and asking, and that's what the dog will do, is start coming and sitting in front of the human to prepay for attention, which the dog tells the human what to do. They don't do anything other than give a counter order now. Now the dog's going to start pro-offering the behavior you want. And when it does, make sure you pet it under its chin and say sit, and not good sit, just sit. And after a while, like I said, it'll prepay for the attention. Now, if you come in the room and you see somebody's petting without a purpose, remember, say paycheck, and that person has to stop petting, tell the dog to sit, and when it sits, pet it under its chin. Now, passive training will really help with teaching her to sit and lay down and come, because those are things she does on her own. So every time we recognize and reward her for doing that, it's more enticing for her to do that in the future. Petting with a purpose, you won't be able to do that until you reliably have some commands down. So passive train that as much as possible. Come up with a word. So every time the dog sits, we make sure we're pointing that out because that's an opportunity to rep it. It's slower by waiting for the dog to do it on its own, but if we really are Johnny on the spot, always giving attention, or even if it's across the room, just say the word sit. It still creates that positive association. Remember to use the word paycheck. If somebody's petting without a purpose, that person has to stop sitting, petting, gives the dog a command, and then pets and explains, yes, I was doing it the right way. We also talked about exercise and rules. Throwing treats up and down the stairs is a great way for her to get some exercise inside. The walks, I think, will really help. Not only would I like to have the guardian's boyfriend and neighbors walk, I would like to actually have the guardian walk her as well. It'd be nice if she got like 2 or 3 walks a day. Doesn't have to be a marathon walk, but try to come 3 different circuits or loops. So if one day we're walking this way, one day we're walking that way, one day we're walking that way, but going around, well, I guess not this way, but come up with 3 different loops so that she has some variety on her walks. And then if you have somebody that's really difficult, you could drive her away and then with a guest and then leave them and then drive back here so she's motivated to come back, but I don't think you'll have to do that. But the more that she walks, the more stimulated she'll get. Is she afraid of thunderstorms? So next time, it's the spring, we're gonna have a lot of thunderstorms. So every time I put thunderstorms, try to do as much as you can. Put on your raincoat, Make sure she's good and her harness is nice and secure, and take her for like a 15 or 20-minute walk. After a while, she'll hear the lightning she'll hear the thunder, see the lightning, and but she's moving forward, she's distracted. After a while, it won't be the boogeyman for her, and then she doesn't sit and cower every time a lot of times we have rescue dogs, we try to let them run away and flee and hide from things, but then we're not addressing the problem, and then that manifests over and over and over again. Speaking of which, I like the Guardian to, I'll come back to exercise rules, but I like the Guardian to look for like because she likes to hang out under the bed. So that's kind of a place that is a safe place because it's covered. So I'll talk about a kennel in a second, but what I like the Guardian to do is usually if you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, usually boxes that doors come in are wonderful for putting underneath the bed because it blocks the dog from being able to hide underneath there. Now at the same time, I'd like to get a kennel. And or we already have a kennel. Okay, so what we're going to do is have the white bed liner. Don't use a blanket, use just the bed liner. And then it usually has a piping around the side of it. It's white and it kind of has some terry cloth look to it. So basically, she's going to get a bully stick. That's okay. And so basically, what you want to do is if this is the doorway, the kennel's here, and this is the door, I'm just going to sit over here and I'm going to take a treat and toss it maybe halfway towards the kennel. Dog comes over and licks it up and walks away. And keep doing that in the same distance until the dog starts kind of lingering here. Then you throw the treat here, then here, then here, then here. You gradually get her closer and closer. And this might take 100, 200, 300 treats, and not all in one sitting. Hey. And so the idea is she gets closer, she gets to go towards it, and she gets to move away. And we're not doing the final act of putting her in the kennel. And she's a puppy mill dog. She probably had a bad experience with kennels. But we can change that if we don't feel sorry for her and we create positive associations. And eventually once she will go all the way to the kennel, she doesn't have that lean in her steps and she's lingering, then we put the treat just right inside the kennel. She sticks her head in, grabs it, and walks away. Now once she starts putting a paw in there, come up with a name for the kennel. Call it Hawaii or Cabo or whatever you want to call it. And then eventually you put them a little further and further, and she's got to put 2 steps and then 3 steps and 4 steps. And eventually, and then every time that she's gone in the room, leave a treat in there. So every time she goes in there and you're away, good things happen. You can also take a bully stick, drill a hole through the back of it, and I really wouldn't want to have more than really 1 bully bite a day probably. I guess you probably do 2 if you really need to, but that'd be the max, and I'd probably try to stick to 1 a day. Get a regular bully stick, drill a hole through it, and take a zip tie and zip it to the lower back end of the kennel, and just leave it in there. So she can go in the kennel and chew it whenever she wants, but she can't take it out of the kennel. So she's having something good, practicing being calm in the kennel and having something positive happen while she's in the kennel. So the more that happens, the more comfortable she'll get. And if the kennel is covered, then we can actually put the kennel up here in the hallway, or we can actually put it back there in the corner. And that way she has a place that if the guests are here and I don't want to deal with them, I go in my kennel. So instead of running all the way up there and going out, that's like an antisocial behavior. It's okay in short terms, but she's doing it all the time now. We want her to not do that. We want her to feel nice and relaxed. So this way, if you have guests come over, she doesn't like them, she goes in the kennel. And make sure you use funny command words, not just for the kennel, but for everything. All the new tricks and commands, you can call sit, sit. That's pretty ubiquitous. But I like to say crash for lay down. I have funny words for my eating commands, for the toys, and all that fun stuff. So the more that you come up with those fun command words, I think that it'd be really beneficial because we feel bad for her. And so if we bring some levity and people are laughing and joking around, that's going to make things lighten the move and make it easier for her to relax. She's about to crash on the couch. She's pooped. All right, let's talk about rules. Since she's breaking one of the rules, it's not a rule yet, so she's not breaking it. But one of the rules I suggest is not allowing the dog on the furniture. The higher a dog sits, the more rank or status they have. Sitting the same height says we're peers. So what I'd like to do instead is have her using the dog bed. And we use the same principle I just talked about here. What we do is we're sitting, we're just hanging out, just show her you have a treat, throw it into the dog bed. And I put the dog bed over here under the TV so you can kind of bank it off of the wall there. And she'll hear that banking sound. And then she'll go over there, and when she licks it up, come up with a word that means Hawaii, I guess, to go to the dog bed. And also leave a treat in the dog bed for times. And after a while, she'll go there on her own. When she does, then we want to throw a treat towards her, or say the word Hawaii, or go over and pet her if we can, without making her move. So at first, I go over here because it's draining treats, but now when I hang out here, treats fall from the sky. So at first it's to entice, then it becomes to reward. Let me see. We also went over a conditional emotional response. She is basically fearful of cameras. We were trying to take pictures and she wanted to move away. So for that, what you want to do is have about 10 or 12 treats in this hand and the stimulus, whatever she's afraid of, in this hand. And I have them both behind my back. And when the dog's sitting right here, let's say the dog is where my knee is, I would hold the camera up, the dog looks at it, I'd move it away and drop a treat on the floor. And then she licks it up. and I do it again. After maybe 2 or 3 times of 10 or 12 repetition or each time, after a while, she'll kind of like lean towards it a little bit. If she does that, then drop it even more. I do this with collars, with muzzles, with all sorts of different things. And so after a while, the dog sees it and then a treat happens, so it creates a positive association with that as well. If you haven't noticed already, we're kind of forming a trend of positive reinforcement. And so the idea for her is to help her come out of her shell, getting her moving forward. Even if she only takes 1 step towards the guest and then walks away, that's a great thing to do. So when you have guests come over, I would have the guest take her for a walk first, then have the guest keep her on the leash when she comes inside. The guest doesn't have to worry about carrying her in like that. But when they should shorten up the leash so it's kind of short. When they come inside, have them sit there, maybe have it or wherever it is, but have them take the leash and put it under their foot and step on it. So she has about maybe this much leash. So and at that point, the guest does not try to pet her, or talk to her, or interact with her at all. This is a technique called flooding. It is technically a little bit of force. I'm okay doing it though, however, after a walk because she had a positive experience. And then so she's gonna be tired, so hopefully she sits and lays down next to them. So what we're gonna do is practice being calm, close to somebody that she doesn't know very well, and building up trust because that person's not trying to pet her, not trying to talk to her, not trying to engage with her. So not doing anything is doing really a big thing. All right, let's shift back to the rules. So one of the rules I suggest not allowing the dog on the furniture for a month or as long as the problem's still going on, probably be a couple months. And we're going to redirect her towards the dog bed. Get the X mats for the furniture to keep her off of those. Another rule would be when we're eating food on the little ottoman here in front of the couch, she should not be allowed on the carpet around it. We're going to use those escalating consequences. The guardian's going to use those. She should be the only person that's using those for now. And so as she's approaching, we're going to hiss. She turns and walks away. Remember, we have 10 hisses, level 1 to level 10. Only hiss 1 time per incident. And then as she comes back a second time, then we stand up abruptly, turn to face her, keep your belly button pointed towards her until she stops moving. Then take those 2 steps backwards and pause. 1 second, then go sit back down or do whatever you're doing. But if you sit, she's probably going to challenge you again. So don't sit deep in the couch, sit on the edge. And you expect you're going to have to bounce up and correct again. The third one is marching deliberately at the dog. So once she's across the threshold, we're going to start marching at her until she gets across the threshold. So if she crosses the threshold, she takes 3 steps, and I take a step towards her, and she runs all the way after. I don't have to take all the way to the edge. But if she's still on the carpet, then I would walk all the way to the edge until she gets off, and have some steam in your step. If you kind of are really hesitant or slow, she won't move out of your way. She just think, oh, you're going to run me over. It's I don't want to say intimidating, but it's kind of it's front facing. We want the dog not to nip, and we want the dog not to do these things. And understand that just because the human has food doesn't mean I can invade their personal space. She needs to develop some self-control and respect. Let's see. Shouldn't be allowed in the kitchen when the guardian's cooking, but that's not an issue anyways. Eventually have her sit at the door before we let her in or out. Go to the door and say sit once. She doesn't sit, walk away, sit down somewhere, wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, go back to the door, say sit again. 1, 2, 3. She doesn't do things by the 3rd second, move on to something else. You don't want to go outside, she does. So as soon as you go to the door and say sit, and she sits, boom, that door flies open. Oh, so I sit at the door and that makes the door open. Okay, well then the dog starts going and sitting at the door as her way of saying she'd like to go outside. Now she also doesn't have a command word for potty, so remember when you're out pottying, or tell your guests, if they're walking her and she potties, and give your guest poop bags, because she probably will poop a little bit. She did for me quite a bit. And so you say, okay, so if she potties, can you say the word pootin, or whatever your command word is for to poop or to pee. So as soon as she stops to pee, the person just says pootin. No treat, because I don't think she's going to take treats from people initially. We just want to label it. And when you're walking her and she does pee or poop, say pootin. And when she gets done, give her a treat and say the word pootin a second time. And anytime you give a treat, make sure the treat goes in her mouth first, and then she hears the command word immediately after that, and only the command word. Most of us like to use adjectives. Good potty, go there, bad this, dog's name, good dog, good girl. All the more words we use, the harder it is for them to understand. So just say, just sit, just come, just poop, or pootin, or whatever it is. All right, let me think, what else? What else do we go over? That pretty much covers it? Yeah. Okay, so now there are going to be times where she's going to be reactive. Remember, the best thing we can do is increase the distance from her and whatever she's reacting to. And don't push too far. Like I said, I'd like the neighbors to come by and just keep it like a 5 or 10 minute visit after the walk first. So that way it's short, it's positive. We want to have, what we're really looking to do is have her have a positive experience around the block. She's a little bit tired when she comes inside, and then has 5 or 10 minutes with that person without exploding at all. What we're looking is to develop a behavior pattern of guests coming over and I don't react at all. And so the guest should also watch that video. You can explain to the guest, hey, when you're going to get up, let me know, and then we're going to give the dog a treat, and the guest stands up. And then the guest takes one step, and we give her another one. And she should probably feel more comfortable with the guest after going for the walk. Now, I'd like you to try to have a neighbor walk her once a day. And you're going to come, the boyfriend's going to come by once a day, and the guardian's, that's 3 walks a day. Again, just around the block, doesn't have to be a marathon walk, but now she's going to get more and more practiced at that, feel more and more comfortable about that. And then there was something else I was going to go over. It'll come to me in a minute. Feeding, make sure that you're eating something before you feed her. That's not what I was going to come, but it's one I want to talk about anyways. So make sure you take 5 bites of a chip or cracker or whatever it is, then invite her over. So she's not allowed to eat till after you do. Now, if you go over and invite her to eat, she goes over and goes, yeah, I'll come and eat later. As soon as she walks 7 feet away, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, and put the empty bowl back down. She does not eat again until the next meal. My parents' dog, miniature Schnauzer, was so fat she was a square because my parents put egg yolks and dumplings, all this stuff in her food. She came to my house, and I did this, and I feed 3 times a day. She did not eat until breakfast of the 4th day. But after that, she ate right away. So they're going to hold out. So don't, if it goes longer than 3 days, let me know, because that's usually means somebody's cheating. But eventually the dog gets motivated, and they do eat in the order of their rank. So the more that we do that, the more the dog is going to be inclined to want to listen to us. Whatever it is, I will remember, and I will call the client about it afterwards. But basically, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sum it up. So, well, this, normally I would say this is Penny, but Penny, we can actually turn it and show Penny on the couch. There we go. And don't lean any more than that. And go ahead and take it away. No, keep coming back to me. Come back to me. Camera to me. There we go. All right. Well, that's Penny. And that's Penny. You can hear growling. And this is Penny's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.